Hey, Mr. Joe Stevens, how you holding up?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I got off late, but we had a lot of fun last night.
And you know what? Just to, again, let me hold that one. You have one. Do you have another one? Oh, okay. So that way we don't have to be doing that.
Yeah, none of that. None of that.
Would you prefer John or Mr. de Lancie?
My lead. John is fine.
Okay.
And don't look him directly in the eyes.
You go blind.
Lest you be turned to stone. Oh, see what I did there?
I think we're waiting on one more crew. So. Did you have fun last night?
I'll go check.
Hi, Moose.
I didn't crash, but I went back to my room and did more work on my...
This is way awesome.
It was Leonardo da Vinci on SDSVU. It was awesome.
That guy's excited. Do you know I've been in his house? You're excited. I've been in his house.
I'm sailing. My first thing is I'm going straight out into the Pacific and sailing 3,000 miles to the Marquesas.
In that, Dusty was telling me about the boat that was a diesel one. You were asking a question about it, and how we fix the diesel engine or something like that.
No, but
Is it a different boat?
well, it's a sailboat.
Yeah.
Right.
Solo?
No, two other guys.
We all set?
Waiting on one.
We're good?
You're good.
All right. And again, guys, if you're asking questions, just line up off camera.
Well, do it over there, because otherwise I have to go like this and then that. So you're all in position over here for me to answer questions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So they're going to have a question, you're going to repeat it, and I'm going to answer it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, Dave, you ready to go?
Yep.
Start your cameras when you're ready, gentlemen.
Gentlemen, start your camera. Start your engines.
How are we doing voice-wise here? Can you hear me? Are we okay? Everybody okay? Yeah. Okay, guys.
All right. Well, I'm Joe Stevens, and I am here with Everfree Network and Las Pegasus Unicon, and we are here with the illustrious John de Lancie. Thank you for joining us, Mr. de Lancie.
You're quite welcome.
And you played the character Discord in My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, and you're back for season 3. How wonderful was that?
Was or is?
Well, is. It's great to see you again. I mean, everyone loved Discord in season 2. The premiere, the great and powerful Discord coming in and just messing with everything, and then we get to see him redeemed, coming back and redeeming himself. So, how was it like coming back to the show and being able to see that character go through such a change and being in that character, seeing that transition?
I'm not perhaps quite as involved with it as you
Okay.
are. So I don't have those type of, for me, where the rubber meets the road is actually going into the studio and doing it, or reading the script the night before. Redeemed, though, is an unfortunate, perhaps, turn. I don't think that Discord should ever be redeemed.
No, not entirely.
No. So let's hope that he doesn't get
Right.
totally.
He's still got to be Discord.
That's
He
right.
might be a little bit nicer now, but he's still Discord.
Yes, right. For the moment.
Right.
Right.
And so, and you also, in addition to being the character Discord, you have created the Brony documentary, the BronyCon documentary, and that is out. It is released. And what's the reception been to it so far?
Well, the reception has been, for the people that we made it for, the reception has been really terrific. For the people who contributed to the Kickstarter, for the vast majority of them understood what the point of the documentary was about, and are very receptive. For the people then who are the larger audience, which is really to understand that this is a documentary that was not made for bronies. It was made for people who have a negative idea about who bronies are. And for those people, it's been really well received.
Changed people's minds.
Changed people's minds, which was the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise was not to create some sort of little, esoteric explorations of bronyhood in sort of the darker reaches of it.
We know who we are. We need to show who.
You got it, and that was what the point of it was. And for those people, and a number of them have actually come to my house to see the show. So I'll have screenings every once in a while, which comes with a complimentary dinner. Those people who are just professionals, they're doctors and lawyers and are a couple of architects and what have you, who had actually no concept of who bronies were.
Do they come in with a negative attitude?
Well, yes, because in a way I'll set them up. I'll say, so it's going to be a thing about bronies. Yeah, well, John, I know you've been working on this. What are bronies? What's a brony? A brownie? No, a brony. A brony's a 20, and I enjoy the setup. A brony's a 20-year-old guy who watches a cartoon intended for 10-year-old girls. And you can see their minds going like that. I said, so now let's go downstairs and take a look at the film. And afterwards, at dinner time, the last group that was there, one woman said, a doctor, said, after you said that, and I have to say in the first few minutes of the film, I found it the whole notion sort of repugnant. By the time I finished the film, I was really, not only did I like all of the people who I saw, and I was so impressed, but I really had a journey in myself who I consider myself to be a rather open, tolerant, progressive, smart person. I really it had allowed me to kind of examine myself and my own view of the world and how it works. So she said, for me, this was, it sounds a little overspeak, but exaggerated, a life-changing event for me to have watched this.
And so it's good for the individual who's watching it as well as for the community. That's an interesting perspective.
And that's an experience that I've had now. Let's see now, how many people? I'd say 10 or 12 people have seen it. Of my friends.
Right.
And 3 or 4 of them have said the same thing. That there was a push and pull and push and pull. Like, yes. I'm like, no. Let me look again. And I'm like, oh yes. And so you've pulled me further and further away from my own staid notions of about what humanity does and needs and how people interact and all those things.
Well, what an extraordinary, I don't know if this is the right word, but what an extraordinary gift to the Brony community that you're able to deliver this message to the world, because this is the biggest problem facing the Brony community is the hate or the negative perception to people who are not in the know. And so getting people in the know and educating them about this is the best thing for the Brony community to have.
One of the things we kept in mind, Mike and I kept in mind a couple of major, when you create something, you have to have an audience in mind. A face that says something, and then another face that represents something else. One of the faces that I had in mind was an email that we got saying, is this a documentary that I'm going to be able to show my parents? That was an ongoing theme that we had. Also, is this something that I want to make sure that I take you through the journey that actually I went through.
Right.
Okay? That everybody who, when you say 20-year-old guys are watching,
right, you spoke of that in the past.
and they kind of, their eyes kind of go. I want them to go through that journey, so that we have this big obstacle there. Because right off the bat, most people will go, well, these are just a bunch of perverts. And then you go, let me take you by the hand through this experience, and let's see where you end up at the end. And like that kid's father, he goes, sort of begrudgingly a little bit, but yeah, I guess I'll watch. But he was so. There was the kid who, or whoever he was, who said, I'm going to be able to show my parents. There was the parent at large. There was the general society at large. There were the people like the Howard Sterns and the Fox Newses, and people who actually were saying, well, I'm not quite sure whether whether my son being a brony or a terrorist, but I'm not, I kind of go, you're out of your mind, and you need to be educated and in a reasonable sort of way, and hopefully at the end of it you'll come out of it and go, well, okay, it's not the show that I would watch. And frankly, it's not the show that I would watch. But I don't watch much of anything. So, but I applaud the people who do, and mostly who take such good things out of it and apply that in their daily lives. And that is really unusual. And so that's what we were trying to celebrate.
Well, it's such a wonderful individual journey and an enlightening journey, and we actually have a bit of a press conference going on here. We have a lot of different...
Hey, guys!
So, hello, I think that we'll just go. Is there a particular order we're going to go, or why don't we just raise
Sing
hands,
out.
sing out, and if you want to ask a question, and we'll repeat it out here.
Well, how about, what kind of roles would you like to take in your animated career? Like, would you like to be the villain again? Would you like to be a teacher, the protagonist, the side character, main character?
So what kind of roles in your future of your animation voiceover career are you looking forward to do?
You know, I don't look for roles because the fact of the matter is that people call me and they have something. So it isn't as if you go out and you say, I'm only interested in roles that have to do with teachers or something like that. At that point, nobody calls.
I think you'd be a great teacher.
Yeah. So the most that I can really do is to say yes or no. And at that point, the first thing I do is I say, well, let me see the material. Yeah. I did a, when video games were first coming out, I made the mistake, I just got hired, it was just come and do it, you know, and I didn't read the material. It's so, you know, they're so big and they're mostly, you know, one-liners, like, you know, get out of the way, or, you know, ridiculous stuff like that. So I'm there and it's about, you know, 15, 20 minutes into me recording, and all of a sudden I went, wait a minute now, I'm in a car and I'm shooting somebody in another car? He goes, yeah. I said, but this is like a drive-by shooting. Yeah. I was horrified. I knew that I couldn't pull out because, hey, I had said I was going to do it. But I learned my lesson at that point. I went, read it all. I have to read it before.
It's hard to surprise in a drive-by situation when you're in a visual situation. They put you in the car. You can tell that's coming.
Well, I mean, it was just so, it's so contrary to what I think is what we need as a society, is video games about shooting people and about, you know, drive-by shooting.
Less drive-bys, more bronies.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, next. Yes.
Shamrock at Celestia Radio. I had some questions about, in regards to the BronyCon documentary, some of the people that might have had a few, you know, disagreements or whatever about the documentary, some of that has been attributed in part to some of the expenses that were laid out afterwards and how much was being charged to have actual copies of the material. A lot of people thought, you know, that it should be, you know, free and prolific, and that's where some of the issues came with some of the pirating problems. My question is, do you guys think that at any point that there will be a release of what the expenses, what they have gone to in order to make the documentary what it is, in order to try and quell some of that?
Okay, so how do you want to term that?
Well, he's wanting to ask, will the financial records of the BronyCon documentary going to be released at any time?
No. Our obligation is to the people who contributed to the Kickstarter. Our obligations are to nobody else. We did things in that documentary which are sort of unheard of in your favor, which is to say that we used all of the money to put up onto the screen. Our model was such that, in retrospect, it was perhaps the wrong model. It was a model that has been the classic film model that's been going on for years and years. When we asked for $60,000, we had already pre-planned that it would be 2 cameras at a 2-day event, which would then require 6, perhaps 8 weeks of work. And we were comfortable with that. It's not a big commitment on our part, and it's one that seemed all very, very doable. When we got $322,000,
And you weren't asking for 300.
and we were not asking for that, we were both delighted but a little horrified because now we felt an enormous obligation to make sure that we used that money wisely and used all of that money that way. But we were now into a film that had gone from sort of a quasi-amateurish type thing into a full network film with all of the attendance things that go into that. That is